This was the Prime Minister's whimper.
I call the Honourable Nikki Kay.
Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to speak in the response to the Prime Minister's statement. I want to start off by saying today I want to speak as the Associate Minister of Education and the Minister of Youth Affairs, because I want to actually speak about young people in New Zealand and policies that will make an actual difference to their lives. What we heard from the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party was a lot of slogans. In fact, if we look at what he said, he talked about hope and vision, but at the end of the day, when you look at this Prime Minister's statement, there is a plan for our country that means that New Zealanders, young New Zealanders, do have a future. That involves getting back to surplus. It involves ensuring that we have welfare reforms so that young people can't grow up in disadvantaged households with very low incomes. It involves ensuring that we have the right policies in terms of business to ensure that we can actually create jobs. And when we look at what the Labour Party says in these areas, we know that they oppose everything. They oppose welfare reform, they oppose many small business policies, everything from the 90-day trial period to RMA reform, everything that helps the 500,000 small businesses in this country actually employ more young people, the Labour Party opposes. So what I'm confident is, when New Zealanders actually step aside and read the Prime Minister's statement, they will see a very strong contrast from a party across the House that talks in slogans compared to this government that has real policies in areas like labour reform, RMA reform, small business policy, welfare reform, housing, that are actual and that will do something for the young people of this country. And I really want to start now and address the area of education, because we know that if we want to give some of our most disadvantaged young New Zealanders the best start in life, then we have to improve some things. And our government has a very strong policy in education that involves accountability. It involves raising standards, but it also involves helping some of our most disadvantaged learners. And I want to talk about that. I have recently been given responsibility in the area of digital literacy. We know that as a government we have spent hundreds of millions of dollars connecting schools to ultra-fast broadband. And I want to take a moment in this House to talk about a very personal situation that I recently visited with the Prime Minister. We went to Great Barrier Island, a small, isolated community, a community of 800 people. There are children there that have never had the opportunities in education, and this government has invested in that community to ensure that those children will have the same opportunities as children in Auckland. And that is part of our vision for our education system, is to say wherever you are in New Zealand, whatever community you grow up in, you have the opportunities to have the best resources available, and ultra-fast broadband delivers that. We've put several hundred million, and we are very proud of that as a government. The other point I want to make is, when we look at education policy, the fact is our record is clear. We are spending $9.6 billion. That is successive government increases in terms of education, and we actually spend more than any other country in the OECD. So our message is very clear when it comes to education. This national government, under the most difficult financial conditions in a generation, the GFC, a massive fiscal impact in terms of Canterbury, we are spending the most in the OECD, and that is something that we are very proud of as a government. The other thing that we are very focused on, if we want to have quality of life for all New Zealanders, we actually have to do better in terms of the 1 in 5 students that need help in terms of numeracy and literacy. And we have obviously implemented national standards, but we've also put more money into programs to assist that. We're also focused on accountability, and that's why we do have very clear targets. We've got targets that are ambitious. 85% of 18-year-olds will achieve NCA Level 2 or equivalent qualification in 2016. What does this actually mean? This means that instead of some of the young people that come through my electorate office and many of the other MPs around this House who are in a situation where they have left school not being able to read and write, we are saying, actually, that's not good enough. And I want to make this point. One of the opportunities that I've had is to visit many schools in this country. We have some amazing teachers, and we know there are a complex range of factors that we need to focus on to change that. And some of that is about having accountability, like targets. Some of that's about having rich data around parents being able to know where to help their children, and that's what National Standards is about. But it's also about being very clear about expectations. And it's about ensuring that we have the best world-class infrastructure to ensure that students, wherever they grow up in, whether they be Great Barrier Island or Palmerston North, have access to resources. And we know, as a select committee, and that was cross-party MPs demonstrated, that there are many areas of change that need to happen over our education system. One of the key things in that report was to say that our education system is rapidly changing as a result of technology. That means that rather than sitting in a geographical location, there are so many opportunities for teachers to potentially reach students online in other parts of New Zealand. And our government has demonstrated, whether it's through our investment in ultra-fast broadband, whether it's through the fact that we will eventually respond to the Select Committee report, whether it's through Network for Learning as well, which is a major vehicle for the government to deliver in this area, we are actually prepared to not only put the money but the policies to ensure that we have some of the most digitally literate children in the world. And that is something that we are proud of. And that is real vision. That is vision with policies. But when it comes to the Labour Party, all we hear is negativity, slogans, and opposition to policies. And the point that I would make to New Zealanders, read the Prime Minister's statement, see the detail in terms of policies, and look at what we are actually doing. Whether it's in the economy, we have actual policies about getting back to surplus. Whether it's through small business policies, we have implemented the 90-day trial period. We've got a good record on RMA reform. Whether it's through our education system, when you look at what we're doing in terms of investment and infrastructure, when you look at what we're doing around Network for Learning, when you look at the fact that we have invested significantly in Youth Guarantee, this is another area for young New Zealanders. We are focused in delivering those programs for 16 and 17-year-olds who may otherwise drop out of schools. As I've already mentioned, national standards, but also we are interested in ensuring that, as has already been mentioned, we've boosted apprenticeships, because we know that many young people, while some young people may want to be doctors and lawyers, other young people have many opportunities, whether it's in the building and construction sector. Which brings me on, Mr. Speaker, to Canterbury. And I have had the opportunity over the last couple of months to be down in Canterbury and see that we still have a long way to go. But what I am also proud of is, in the most difficult fiscal conditions of a generation, our government has put billions into rebuilding Canterbury. And one area that we have put a significant amount of money is $1 billion in terms of rebuilding and renewing our education system there. That is incredibly significant. It is difficult and it is challenging, because we have some very damaged schools, and we have families that are still recovering from the earthquakes. But again, I make the point that we have found that money and we are working very hard on the ground to rebuild that city, and that's something that we are all proud of. The final point that I would like to make is, as Minister of Youth Affairs, there are many people in this House who will stand up and speak about issues that matter to young people. And as I've mentioned before, I think we've got some very strong policies and we've invested. But as Minister of Youth Affairs, I think it's really important that we ask for young people for their views, whether that be in designing more modern education policies, whether that be about service and how we can increase the amount that young people give back to the community, because that helps create leadership. And I am looking forward to the fact that we have, and I will be visiting a number of programs in my capacity as Minister of Youth Affairs, because I think there are some great community organisations across New Zealand, and there are some great young people that are contributing to this country. And too often, We hear in the paper the negative stories about young people, but whether it's Sam Johnson and the work that he did with the student volunteers in terms of rebuilding Canterbury, there are some amazing young people in New Zealand, and we are investing in a number of programs to help support that. I look forward to hosting Youth Parliament, which happens every parliamentary term, and I was pleased to make the announcement yesterday. But also, I think there are a number of areas such as the Prime Minister's Youth Mental Health Project and the Youth Crime Action Plan where we can do more. Mr Speaker, I'm very proud of this government's policies in terms of young New Zealanders.